Welcome back to the DTF Film Sessions. I'm Max Dean. You can find me on Twitter at @BMaxDean. And I am here with Tre'Shon Diaz. That's going to be Trey3Sean on Twitter, spelled phonetically, of course. Tre'Shon covers the Falcons for us at Defiant Takes Football. He also has an awesome Falcons podcast. So if you're a Falcons fan, check it out. The Millennium Falcons podcast. I don't know why I always
Yeah,
have a hard time with
no problem.
that.
Yeah.
But how you doing, man?
Doing good, excited. Yeah, man, it's just, it's almost that time, it's almost draft day. It's any once you start getting under 2 weeks, everything starts to get real. So, just excited for it to get here.
Me too. Me too. Um, so we're gonna do another guy that I've been kind of excited to do for a while because you get little glimpses of these guys along the way, and it's not until you really dive in that you're ready to do a video like this. And so I've been eager to get into the tape of Lukas Van Ness, the edge defender from Iowa. And he is going to be ranked pretty highly on my board. Definitely a first round pick, in my opinion. But I think he's also kind of scheme specific, or if not scheme specific, at least role specific. I think you really need to have an idea of what you want to do with him. But very powerful guy. Strength is a key element of his game, and definitely a try hard type of player. Like I said, strength, size goes along with that. 6'5", 272. So he's got the mass behind him. He can play the run effectively, and his moves are mostly power moves in the pass rush game. But before we get into the tape itself, what are your kind of overall thoughts on Van Ness?
Yeah, I've been taking a much closer look at him recently. It's actually been linked that the Falcons are really interested in him. I didn't really think of him as a top 10 pick. That put him at, number 8. So it'd be interesting. Kind of like you said, classic lunch pail guy, just big, hardworking. He technically wasn't a starter, which is interesting, but he played starter minutes. Like when you look at like the snap counts, it's like he ended up playing, the amount of a starting defender. So I found that to be kind of interesting. And he's intriguing. He's big. I don't know if he's a finished product yet. I hope he's not. That's kind of where it starts to split for me on where I'm not sure if I'm completely done or ready with my evaluation on him, whether he continues to grow or if he's kind of capped out.
Well, I think that he definitely has technical refinement that he can develop. I really don't have much doubt of that. I think the effort is going to help that as well.
Mm.
So I think this is a player I expect to be better as a pro than in college. There's really no doubt about that. The question is just how high is that upside? Is he athletic enough to be, uh, you know, a 15 to 17 sack type of player?
Yeah.
And most of the guys, even in the top 10, are not guaranteed to be that. But I think it's
Yeah.
easier to visualize with some of the bendy ones, some of the speed
Hmm.
ones, some of those guys who have all of the traits. But I think, I think he's an interesting player. I don't think I would want to take him in the top 10, but I don't think the teens would be out of the question at all. And at that point, it's like,
Yeah.
it just depends on what you like and what your preferences are. So
Yeah.
maybe our breakdown here can help sway you in one direction or another. All right, let's take a look. So I clipped these plays up the other day, so I'm gonna get a little refresher myself in terms of what I chose and why. All right. All right, so he's against Paris Johnson Jr. here, and he just
Hmm.
puts him on skates and takes him back. Now, PJ Jr. is not necessarily a refined product himself. Those hands are pretty wide, right? You're giving up the inside leverage there, but Paris Johnson is a big, strong player,
Yeah.
and his pad level is not bad. It's just he's no match for this. And he throws him at the end. I mean, this is a very intentional bull rush. I love this play.
Yeah, no, that's a good rep. I'm interested to see that from the box view. You know, like you said,
Sure.
it looks like he never, PJ Junior's never really able to sit down there. Um, oh yeah, that's just nice. Makes contact inside. He's able to beat him with his hands. He gets hands on him first, and then that extension and just that leg drive. I mean, like you said, it's just a lot of power.
Hmm. I mean, it's a good get off too.
Yeah, it's a nice first step.
For a guy that's not necessarily known as an athlete, and it's funny because he did test pretty well at the combine. This is an explosive first step, and I love that there's no false step here. I mean, it's a small thing, but it's nice to see. Like, you rarely see guys in college who don't give a false step, especially high end pass rushers who have just been better athletes than most other guys for the majority of their playing career. I don't think he has the longest arms. Like those, it doesn't look like the longest arms. I didn't check what they were before this breakdown. I don't think they're that long, but it's a nice punch timing, and I think this is pretty early in the game, and so he's definitely putting Paris Johnson Jr. on notice.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot just hug me. Like, I will drive you straight back into the quarterback.
Yeah, and for a guy like you mentioned earlier that needs we would think some technical refinement. This is actually pretty technically sound. I mean, you couldn't really do this bull rush better. I mean, his first three steps are, I mean, making the contact, getting the punch, like you said, no false step. You honestly can't ask for a better get off, and that's against a first round pick right there, who some people think could end up being one of the better O linemen to develop out of this class. So that's
Yeah.
that's good to see.
So it's 1, 2, 3, and then the simultaneous third step and punch happens. It's pretty interesting. So his third step with his right foot
Hmm.
makes contact with the ground at the exact moment that he makes contact with his hands in the chest of Paris Johnson Jr. So that generates a lot of torque if it's like it's explosive like that, right? So you can see 1, 2, 3.
And then just
Like,
punching right when he land. Yeah. And I mean, the
so.
way his legs he doesn't skip a beat, it's like he doesn't ever hit any resistance.
Mhm.
He's able to just drive perfectly.
So that's about as good as it's ever going to look from Lukas Van Ness. It's like the way he likes to win, and I think that there will be guys where he will have a harder time doing that against at the next level. But
Mhm.
I don't think that the strength and the power won't translate. I think, it's just gonna take some time to learn how to win individually against each player that you go up against. But let's go ahead and take a look at the next play here, because there is there's plenty of different things that he does. It's not just bull rushing. So, all right, here we've got him on the right side again. All
Little
right.
hustle.
And
Yeah.
so this is the kind of stuff that I do love to see from players. And, maybe it's like a little old school of me, but anytime that you can enforce, it's just a little extra credit for me.
Yeah.
So the, this is an interesting play because it's a halfback toss, and this is not a great block from Paris Johnson Jr. at all. Because it's like he's ready for him inside, right? Like, that's kind of how he sets. But
Yeah.
he goes outside, and then Paris Johnson Jr. tries to adjust, even though, to be honest, like, you should just let him run the outside if he's going to take it, because that's where this play is headed. Um, I don't know if it's like a
Looks like it could be a potential setup for maybe a pass off of that, maybe a fake toss, and then they come back to that side or something. I don't know. It's definitely an
yeah,
interesting interesting technique.
right. Yeah, so this is one of the reasons that, like, people who are really high on Paris Johnson Jr., I'm like, I get the traits, but let's hold off a sec on that. But we could talk about him another day. So, so he goes outside, comes in, very effective, kind of swim, I guess, because it's weird situation. But he's not the fastest guy, but he comes screaming off here. He adjusts his angle really nicely, and he
Yeah.
keeps eyes on the back throughout all of the traffic, and then form tackle, great, and then that does not feel good. I promise. A 272-pound player coming at you with force driving you into the ground. That's my favorite part about the play, and we can watch it from the other angle here too.
The thing that's nice about plays like this, people talk about it, it's tackle 7, 8 yards down the field.
Mhm.
These are the plays where it kind of gives you confidence about a player's floor, like the effort, seeing them come across the field, do the little things like this. That's kind of, in my opinion, where people say kind of, we're not sure what his ceiling could be or where he could get, but if you're drafting a player who does things like this, he's raising his floor at the next level, and he's doing at least the reliable, dependable things that you want to
Mhm.
see from a guy.
Yeah. So comes across like not ridiculous athleticism, not this like wild change of direction like readily apparent, but he navigates all the traffic very effectively, and then
That's nice.
like that is a forceful tackle to say the least. And you know what's funny? It's like, of course, the other player making the tackle.
I was gonna say is Campbell. Yep,
Yeah.
is Campbell.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So you have how what you must have almost 600 pounds,
Yeah.
maybe not 600, but over 500 pounds of weight just dropping on you right now between those two. And it's like, yeah, you got your 8 yards, but at what cost? You know what I mean? So that's just a little a little bit of flavor from Van Ness. But let's see what else he can do technique wise. Oh, this is more flavor actually. This is another play I love. So this is an option. I believe it's an option, or maybe it's intentional the whole way. But regardless, the whole idea is that as far as the defenders are concerned, you don't know who has the ball, or you're not supposed to know. Well, he's going to come in and make you pay for that if you're the quarterback. You see, number 8 running across, trying the tight end, trying to save CJ Stroud's life, and Van Ness does not care if he has the ball or not. He is taking his opportunity to just put him flat on his butt, and he is very happy about it. Like, I love this. Like, if you could maybe get, I mean, you can't even get a roughing the passer penalty. You might get a personal foul, I guess, but it's like if you're faking that you have the ball, if you get lit up, there's not much that a ref can do about that. And I love taking your chance and just putting him on his butt. Like, just make your presence felt. And again, it's not really a technique thing, but this is the player that you are drafting who sets the tone for your defense.
Mm. Again, really good first step. It's good to see, that happening on a consistent basis here. I don't think there's a false step. Like I love the shot. I don't know about that at the next level. I think that might draw a flag. But like you said, he's not afraid to let anybody know that he's there. You like seeing that he, has strength at the point of attack, and then of course who cleans up on the other end is Campbell.
Oh
I mean,
man.
they just gave
So
him a free shot.
yeah, you're asking for trouble if you do that, and he's gonna. It's just whether or not that exact situation is viable at the next level. It doesn't really matter. It's just more about the mindset and the mentality and the attitude that he plays with. All right. he's on the other side now.
Mm.
Okay, so this is where we see a little bit of something that came across in his tape, which was a little over aggressive and playing a little crazy at times, right? So he wins here this block, in my opinion. The tight end isn't able to move him, and he's moving, generally into the gap, but he sheds the block a little too early, gets a little too aggressive, and tries to come in here and doesn't set the edge.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest thing there is, like you said, you can tell he's a little excited. He feels like that hole's opening. He can crash down into that gap and clean up there, but he's got to stay in his ground and set the edge right there, because he, like you said, he runs himself out and the tight end just uses that momentum, and then he's vacated his gap, and then luckily he's got somebody, linebacker's going to come over and clean up for him. But
Yeah, guess which linebacker?
yeah, exactly. You know who.
But yeah, I mean, I don't even think the tight end really washes him out of the play. I think the tight end is basically falling over, and he just jumps in. He's like, I got you dead to rights, and then he just jumps so far out of the gap that a good cut from I don't even know who this is, but considering it's Ohio State, it's probably an NFL caliber running back. So like, thanks but no thanks.
Yeah.
So these are the things more than anything that I see as issues with his game. It's not necessarily the technique itself. It's more about playing a little bit more patiently, just being a little bit more consistent with living in your role, right? Like do your job, as Belichick says.
And everybody says that discipline.
Exactly. Like everybody has him going to the Patriots, and I understand why, but at the same time, like Belichick's not going to be happy looking at that play, right? That is not doing your job. That is trying to overextend yourself and then giving up your, and ultimately does it work out? Yeah, but it could have been a lot worse potentially. All right. All right, this is another very impressive play, and I'm just going to come straight to the end zone cam because you can't see pretty much anything there. He is going to, I believe, be lined up over Dawan Jones on the right side there, right side of the offense, and he is, he moves so that Dawan Jones doesn't necessarily get the best leverage on him, but I have done a breakdown on Jones, and he has incredible strength, even a little off balance, even with a little reach, because his arms are so long. And Van Ness holds up against that really, really well and makes a play here. So I'll play it from here, but just so you know what you're looking at, like where to put your eyes before I start. This is like really remarkable strength. So I'll go a little bit slower here. So Jones can manhandle just about anybody.
Yes, he can.
So, normally he'd be able to wash you out of this play pretty effectively, especially like if you give up your side to him. But if you see where his legs are, he's leveraged himself against Jones, and refuses to let himself get pushed out of the play. He's able to maintain his feet and then put a good shot on. He's not the only one making the tackle there, but he puts a good shot right there on the back through all that mess. That's a high effort play, like a very high ceiling play in terms of strength. And so for me, this is one of the reasons that I really like his potential as like an odd front end. So he's playing kind of inside, because I think he's got the athleticism to win versus interior players, but also the strength to hold up against them too. And I think he could be even a strength mismatch against some tackles. Obviously, even he was against Paris Johnson Jr. earlier, but against NFL caliber tackles or NFL experienced tackles as well. So
Yeah, that versatility is exactly why people think that he could be a legitimate option at 8 for a team like Atlanta, who needs a player who can kind of play the 5 and then be able to actually be an edge on the outside too when needed. So, I think the good thing here, like you said, it's just a really strong center of gravity, strong core, able to absorb that hit, but still stay upright. You see that he keeps his shoulder pads square the entire time down the line. He has his eyes up, and gets a nice shot on the running back. That's just really, again, he's played really solid football in this game, and the strength is evident in every play. And I think, like you said, that's something that you're seeing that high ceiling.
right, and when you see it against a player like Dawan Jones, who maybe not pound for pound, but is probably one of the single strongest players in the entire draft, then that's when you just have no concern about it translating to the next level. And so he needs to develop a pass rush plan, I think, especially if he's rushing off the outside, because he's going to have to take advantage of space a little bit better. But this is what he can work off of, right? He can use this as the foundation of everything else that he does. He can use his threat for power to win outside, but that's just going to take some work. That's going to take some refinement, and then the discipline that we talked about as well. All right, I think this probably the last play here. All right, so let's go back. So lined up against Dawan Jones again.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
what a punch! Well,
yeah.
I mean, just throws him, gets his hands completely, and turns him.
So this, you'll when you see the end zone cam, you can see that Jones is not really helped by the positioning of his guard here, and he's doesn't have the best feet. He's a little off balance. You can see, like, if you look through his legs, you can see the guards right there. But regardless, the fact that he is able to actually generate, I'm talking about Van Ness now, that he's actually able to generate the force to move a man who in this game probably weighs possibly north of 380 pounds.
Yeah.
And hit him like that and get him to genuinely move. Now, again, this is where we see
a full 360.
I know. This is not something that you put on your highlight reel of your Dawan Jones, but it's kind of funny. And look, he puts so much force into it that he actually loses his feet a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe he gets stepped on, actually. I think he gets stepped on. But so he trips. And you see this is like where he's not the greatest of athletes. Not that he's not fast or not a good athlete, but the balance is not fantastic in this moment. So he's actually all the way down to his knees, but effort, gets up and makes an effective tackle. So it goes from being on the ground and then chasing down CJ Stroud for 5-yard gain, looks like, pretty much. So it's the effort that makes this a successful play. Yeah, was it a gain? But ultimately, 5 yards is 5 yards.
Yeah.
Off a broken play is not the end of the world. Want to watch Dawan Jones spin around from the end zone angle? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good too. You talk about He was a much. I think he was a lot faster than people expected him to be. At the combine. At least I thought he was faster than I expected him to be. Especially his 10-yard split, and you see it here. He goes down to the ground completely. I mean, Stroud has, a little bit of a head start here.
I mean, certainly at least.
You would think, yeah, I don't know. He doesn't really see him, but I mean, it's just nice to see the effort. Like you said, it's consistent. It's there every play. The strength, it's there every play. He has a legitimate floor where if you pick him in the teens, you feel pretty comfortable about that. You like you said, you need to develop a little bit more of a pass rush plan with him, but he brings things to the table that make him playable. And make him somebody that can contribute to the defense off the bat if you have that role for him.
Right. And at his size and weight and length and everything, I'm not sure that he's gonna be for everybody. I think there will be teams where it's like they see the good qualities and they're like, it's just not for us. It's just not what we look for in a defensive end. He's not big enough to be a defensive tackle for us. And so, you can draft him if you run an even front and put him on the strong side. Like keep him there more often than not. Or if you run an odd front, I think he's a great fit for you because he's probably a little bit light, but I feel like I see a lot of JJ Watt in him. Now JJ Watt was a crazier athlete. He had better length, but there are aspects of his play that definitely remind me of him. The core strength, I think, is one. I think Watt's strength was not certainly by other players, but probably by the general public, just not necessarily appreciated for what it was. Just a ridiculously strong player in every part of his body, just like core strength, like crazy. So I think that he's just a guy where if you are in love with those traitsy 6'5", 6'6" guys with long arms and super speed, then he's not for you. But I feel like he's my edge for behind Nolan Smith. But I think for a lot of people, like, you could easily look at this and say Nolan Smith is your guy, right? So if this is a situation where Tyree Wilson's off the board really early, then I think probably either one of those guys could justify a top 10 pick if you like them. And I don't think you're wrong with what you choose between the two. It just depends on what it is you're looking for,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair ranking. I'm pretty sure Pro Football Focus has Van Ness rated higher than Nolan Smith as of right now. So I think they're pretty close to each other. I think they're both kind of similar in that they offer you a really nice floor, and that you have to figure out what that pass rush game plan is going to be, how to develop them there. But Van Ness is he's a nice player. I do think he offers you some traits. He's 6'5", the 272, the strength. Like you mentioned, it's not for everybody, but there are coaches that will gravitate towards that. There are defensive line coaches out there that see that potential and figure out ways to use guys like that all the time. And then suddenly, he's the next Trey Hendrickson, and it feels like he came out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, look, I mean, he's got 34-inch arms, so I think it doesn't look that way on tape necessarily, but I mean, the measurement's the measurement. I mean, let me look up. Well, I'm looking up the JJ Watt combine numbers.
34-inch arms. That's yeah.
It's pretty good. They don't look like that.
That's really good. Yeah.
So JJ Watt's measurables at the combine were 6'5", 290, and 34-inch arms.
So 20-pound difference. You brought it up earlier.
15 pounds.
15
and I think
pounds.
JJ Watt
could put that on too.
Well, he probably could. And also, I don't think JJ Watt played in the NFL at 290 pounds, to be honest. But
yeah.
I'm not totally sure about that. But I see a lot of comps in the way they play, in the style. And again, JJ Watt was a really special athlete, more explosive, probably hit more in the verts and whatnot. See, so he had a 4.91 So I don't really even look at I don't even look at like combine numbers and times and stuff that often, but I'm just
Hmm.
curious to see how these two players specifically match up. So Watt was a 4.91. Van Ness ran a 4.58. So he ran faster. 10-yard split was better. 1.64 versus 1.71. Again, there's 16-pound difference. Watt had a 37-inch vert. Yeah, so that's some of the explosiveness there. Van Ness only had a 31-inch vert.
Yeah, his explosive metrics weren't great.
Um, Broad jump, Watt hit 10 feet in the broad jump. Van Ness 9 feet 10, so not bad.
Yeah.
And what else? Watt. I think some of Watt's other cones and shuttles are a little bit better. Yeah, they are. But regardless, the point is just that if I were to pick the ideal situation for him, it would be somewhere that would utilize him in a similar role, where he's getting outside pass rush reps, but he's also getting plenty of opportunities against interior players as well, because I think that his quickness is going to work to his advantage in pass rush sets, and then I think he can play very effectively against the run from the outside. So
Yeah.
that's what I see from him, you know.
Yeah. New Orleans, I think Dennis Allen defense. I think Atlanta, who now has a Dennis Allen disciple. Those are two teams that kind of stick out to me immediately that utilize players, utilize their D linemen like that. So I don't know, it'd be interesting to see where he goes. I think he's definitely going to be a first round pick, like you said. I think the teens is his sweet spot. I think there's a couple other interesting teams in there that could possibly be in the mix for him, but it's a
Yeah,
fun
you know,
prospect.
one thing I would throw out is the possibility of the Texans picking him up, because
Mhm.
even though they don't run an odd front, the 49ers offshoot, they love guys with inside outside versatility.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they pick him up, snag him at 12, because it really depends on who else is available. You know, if
Yeah. I mean,
JSN makes a ton of sense for them, but he might not be there, right?
yeah.
He's my receiver one, so if he were to go in the top 10, I wouldn't be shocked. Or at 11 or wherever.
Yeah.
And so you just never know. So I think there are a fair amount of places that would work for him. But that's just a role that I envision him succeeding in the most. But I think that'll do it for us. We're about 30 minutes or so here, so we'll call it a night. Tre'Shon, thanks for joining me to talk about Van Ness, and we'll get back hopefully with some linebackers in the next couple of days.
Awesome.
You can find me on Twitter at TheMaxDean. You can find Tre'Shon at Trey3Shon. How do you say it? Like, when you tell people what your Twitter handle is, how do you describe it?
Oh, TRE3 SHON. That's all I say. Tre'Shon.
Spell it all the way out. That
Yep.
makes sense. All right, TRE3SHON. You heard it. You can find Defiant Takes Football at Defiant Takes on all social media outlets. You can find all of our written work published at defianttakesfootball.com. We're currently in the middle of a team mock draft where every single team is repped by and managed by a Defiant Takes Football writer. So that's been fun.
Yes, it
And
has.
we will we will have all of those published in the next couple of days, depending on when this video comes out. And we're live every Monday and Thursday on the channel at nights now rather than in the morning, and you can find all of our breakdowns there as well. So if you find us after the fact and you want to check out your player or players who have been drafted to your division rivals and see who's joining their roster, you can scroll through, do a quick search, and find that player, because we got a lot of them done. Tre'Shon, thanks again. We'll see you all very soon.